then there is Merle's question, who can be a root Lama? Is the root Lama the same as the Guru? I will quickly answer that question. The root Lama is your own nature of mind. This is for sure. However, in the beginning we have many different teachers, many different Lamas who guide us, and then there will be one person according to whose instructions we actually understand the mind, and that becomes the root Lama. Okay, so the root Lama is finally, you will find out who the root Lama is, because the teachings of that person open up your mind to the non-dual nature. So that's the outer root Lama. And the outer root Lama has the task to open the path to the inner Guru. And finally, that will be the Guru that you continue your journey with. It's your own Buddha nature. So after Merle's question, I put in at 5:02, this was the first teaching. And I put in the notes of video 12, Zoom 1, Generating Confidence, Basic Explanations. So if you copy that, then you have the A and B. This was the first afternoon of teachings, right? I see that that the chat function is not big enough to have really long text, so it stops with the primordial abiding nature. Yeah, it stops there. I will copy that in later, but you can copy yourself that out before you close your session. And then I put in the second teaching, which was yesterday. Video 13, Zoom 2, Generating Confidence. Mahamudra in Sutras and Tantras. And there you have my notes, okay, of the teachings of yesterday. And then comes 5:06 p.m., the third teaching. But Karin came in, she has and video 14, Zoom 3, Specific Preliminaries for the Practice of Mahamudra. Okay? So here you have all of what we have been going through yesterday and today, all the different points. For example, when you look at 1, 2, you have the contemplating the preciousness of our human birth, deeply going for refuge and arousing bodhicitta, and point 3 was cut, so I copied it in again, 3, 4, 5. And then you have the chat points. This comes now. This is what I will teach now. Okay? So before leaving, those of you who are interested, you can copy this out into your own file, and then you have at least my notes, because I was asked in the pause if I could share my notes. Now, I did it this way. Yes? Of course, it will also be in our media library later on. Every video will receive its own index and so on, so you will find them back later on. Okay. I will go back to one question. Karin at 5:06, she asked, "Hi Tilman, could you say something about the effect of Vajrasattva practice? Yesterday you said that it purifies also feelings of guilt and shame, lack of self-confidence. That means it does not purify the unwholesome deeds as such. They are still there as karmic seeds and will ripen. Is that so?" But does it make a difference whether I still am full of feelings of guilt and shame? What makes the difference? Well, this question leads us a little bit deeper into the Vajrasattva practice and how it works. I take it up. Normally it's part of more extensive explanations. In a short way of talking, we always say, or the teachers say, the books say, that the Vajrasattva practice purifies the negative deeds, of body, speech and mind of the past. But you cannot purify the past, okay? It's just impossible. The past is gone. It's not possible. So the purification happens in the now. And it happens in our own mind. We purify now everything that is left from previous ways of thinking, talking, and acting with the body. So that's what is actually the point of the Vajrasattva practice. As we purify our own patterns of functioning in that way that was not so good in the past, we do it now, and we completely change our own way of dealing with similar challenging situations. The karma that originated from that, like the suffering which we created to another person, that is done. We cannot stop that. The effect is going on. And at some point it will reach us also. To some extent, the boomerang will come back. But then, in that area where we have purified, where we have worked with our loving awareness, then we will not enter into this self-defense. We will not enter into justifications. We will simply experience the suffering of which we were one of the causes, and it will be able to liberate itself very quickly. So it's not that Vajrasattva practice makes it impossible for karma to ripen. It cannot stop all the karmic boomerangs which are going on in our relationships, but it generates an atmosphere of such openness that some of these, you can say, ill feelings of our karmic creditors, of those to whom we have done harm, that they already stop when they come into contact with us again, because they see we are a completely changed person. Some of these impacts will still reach us, but they will reach us in bodhicitta, in an open state of mind, so it's no harm. That's what's meant briefly with purification of karma through Vajrasattva practice. So in our own awareness, the tendency to act in such a way is also purified. This is called seeds. The seeds which are the effects, the forces active in our mind, which are the effects of previous actions, they have come into our awareness, have been completely embraced by bodhicitta, and thus the seeds of negative activity have been purified. So the tendency to act like that can also be purified by Vajrasattva practice. I hope you could follow. It's a little bit difficult if one hasn't done the practice. Okay, back to what comes now. What comes now is now. So always the next now is now. In Mahamudra, we work a lot with these gaps. We allow for gaps. We are not afraid of gaps. There is a natural continuity of mind, even if there is a gap. There's an awareness continuing. And actually, from this state of not knowing, of being in the gap, that's a very favorable condition to start meditating and to enter the new situation. So the next teaching, I will just do a little bit of it, are the preliminaries for every Mahamudra meditation. And you will see it helps us to enter into meditating a little bit later. It's basically a summary of what we have already seen. Not all of it. We are in Moonbeams, pages 168 following. And the first point is what we should always take care of. So we preserve wholesome conduct with mindfulness and alertness. So this is Shila, the wholesome conduct, which is always the basis for our practice. If we have done something which has disturbed our mind, for example, if I had to work in the garden and I have damaged some worms, some insects and so on, then before entering meditation, I cultivate a moment of regret and of making prayers for them and just to clear out that obstacle due to my conduct, lacking mindfulness, lacking love. Yes. And then I start to meditate. And we keep that. We keep that throughout our life. And when we start to meditate, we remain free of attachment and aversion in the 6 sense fields. Okay, let's do that before I even continue. What does that mean? Those who have followed my teachings, you know that I'm doing this very often with you, opening the 6 sense fields. But let's do it again. First, the 6 are the physical sense, hearing, the visual sense, smelling, tasting, and the so-called mental sense, noticing all of what's going on inwardly without being stimulated by outer sensory impressions. So it's all of our experience, the 6 together. I will guide you through a little meditation so that you can enjoy it. You don't have to do it yourself right now. Wherever we are, we don't even have to change the posture of our body. We can start with how it is just now. Or we make ourselves a little bit more comfortable. And outwardly, we become silent which increases our awareness of what's happening in the body. Feel your body. I mean, we cannot feel the body. Actually, we feel lots of different sensations. From the head, from the top of our head, through the face, the back of the head, the neck, the throat. Already there we feel so much. Then we include the shoulders and the arms, down to the fingertips. Include the upper part of the chest, the upper part of the back, the abdomen, the lower part of the back, the lower part of the belly, the pelvic area, the lowest part of the back, the buttocks. Like this we move down, including the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, the upper side of the feet, the plantar side of the feet, all the way to the toes. And we don't only feel outside, we feel inside as well. Everywhere. Now to do that without attachment means that we give no preference to pleasurable feelings. And to be aware without aversion means to not fight with disagreeable sensations. And please already be aware of the changing nature of those physical sensations. And please also take a short note of the fact that the body does not have such definite limits. What we call body is more or less an idea in mind combining all these various sensations into one. And then we return to just feeling. We do the same with the visual field, but we don't have to scan actually every detail of what we see. It's enough to be seeing without giving preference to one color or another color. Being open, open eyes, not closing off, seeing without comments, seeing without attachment and aversion, just seeing. There is a spaciousness to seeing. There is light. The eyes don't have to be fixed, but they dwell somewhere in front of us while we see the whole visual field. And we hear. We hear all sounds. And the space, the silence, you can say, in which the sounds arise. No need to make comments on any of the sounds. We have 3 senses activated now. Physical sensations, visual sensations, auditory sensations. Tasting and smelling can also be included. And we notice that there is change in all these 5 sense fields. We might also notice that sensory perception just works by itself. Maybe we become aware of mental movements, impulses. We might become aware of mental movements stimulated by sensory impressions. And we can have thoughts, images, independent of sensory impressions. free from attachment, free from aversion, being aware. All senses are open. Even more subtle, we might feel some happy mood, or we feel a little bit sad, or we feel just normal, balanced, open, or we might feel narrow or agitated. We have such fine senses, so fine. How is it to be now with all senses open? And not reacting with attachment and aversion. Not trying to achieve something, just being. Okay, so much for now. Thank you very much. I would like to talk with you about this experience. This is called a preliminary to Mahamudra. It is not yet Mahamudra. Okay? This is shamatha, what I guess most of you have experienced now. This was a guided meditation, you were following the instructions, you were opening your awareness in the different fields, and all of this was done with a little observing activity. Okay? You might have experienced a peaceful state of mind. This is entering shamatha, calm mind, with the help of opening all six senses. It is one of the slightly more advanced techniques of entering a calm mind. Instead of using just one sense field and one task in that sense field, for example, to meditate on a candle, one visual impulse which serves as a focus, then we opened to all the fluctuating sense impressions, but without attaching to them. So that's what created the calm. Now from that calm, this is the preliminary, we can move forward into insight. We can look into how it is. This is the technique of insight practice, is to ask ourselves little questions. How is it actually? How do the sense perceptions arise? How do they pass away? Do they stay in between, or how is it actually? Do they pass away as they arise? You know, we are interested to know, is someone doing that? Have you been doing that meditation, or has awareness been aware by itself? Did you have to tell your mind to be conscious? We ask questions. These are the inquiry questions leading into a more precise perception, more precise feeling, more subtle feeling of just how it is. The idea of these questions is not to have intellectual answers, but to stimulate a finer sense of just how it is to be. And for example, we could look, where is there any remaining tension? And we might find that there is some control still, that we are not letting go completely, that we are even in the body finding areas where there is still tension. And then we work with that. We look into the causes of that tension. For example, the wish to have a good experience, or the fear to open up more. All of this is insight practice. This is insight practice with an investigating mind, and then after the moment of looking, we relax into that what we have seen, and that is a moment of non-conceptual insight practice. We go with the aha. That's aha. We discover simplicity, for example, how simple it is, and we go with that, we relax more with that. Every insight, every true insight helps us to open more. So each little understanding of how mind is, we go with that and we open up into that. And that's the non-conceptual insight practice. And as the insight leads us into a complete letting go, no need to control. We can forget ourselves, truly forgetting ourselves beyond subject and object, beyond someone meditating and his or her meditation. That's non-dual presence, and that's Mahamudra. Okay? That's why this opening the six senses is called a preliminary. Because from there we can go into all fields of experience. We do not exclude anything. All senses are open. So we don't close the eyes. We open them because we want to know the nature of all phenomena. Sometimes we can close them, okay, when we are tired, but normally that's like with the emotions. We open to everything that is. We don't avoid one. Okay, that was why it's called a preliminary. And then the next point is being fully alert and mindful in all our actions of body, speech, and mind. That's the next point. Action, this is in the breaks and during the practice. Being fully mindful means being fully present, being there. And alertness means to notice when a distraction comes in. These are two terms which a little bit, they point to different capacities of the mind. Mindfulness is, for example, I go mindfully, I step around the camera and the lights, and I mindfully go to the door and to the toilet, okay? And the alertness is to know, oh, there is a foot in the way. I have to be more careful even. Oh, this light is very sensitive. And then the alertness is what gives an extra mindfulness. Mindfulness is the continuing of being present, and alertness knows when it is time for extra attention. Alertness notices when agitation, when distraction knocks on the door, or when dullness comes to surface. Then alertness knows that and corrects that a little bit. So you can combine mindfulness and alertness into one single quality, but one is that which maintains, which is continuous, and the other one always looks for challenges appearing. It's more like the security officer. Yeah, it's like watching out and keeping us on the track. And we need that. Someone talks to us, oops, now I better relax because there's a little challenge coming. Yes? This is the alertness. And the mindfulness maintains the relaxation. Okay, the next point is enjoying moderation in eating, drinking, and so on, taking food as medicine. The point is here that we enjoy moderation. It goes with the joy. We are not talking about making a program for ourselves to be strict and so on, but to enjoy a meaningful way of dealing with food, with drinks, with sleep, and so on. All the sensory inputs that we enjoy, to use them as medicine. Listening to music, for example, we can enjoy in as much as it helps to open our heart-mind. When it becomes a distraction, or it kind of becomes even a veil, a cloud, we can't feel our own state of mind, then it's not helpful. Same with food. If we take food in order to be strong and balanced and so on, and not to suppress emotional states or to make up for stress and so on. It doesn't really help for that. We need to find better ways to relax. And so on. Like with alcohol, for example, you can't say that alcohol as such is bad. We have to know how much of it is good for me now, and when is it not helpful. We have to know that. And then in every situation, we need to find out what's good now. So moderation is wisdom. It's the wisdom which knows when to stop. How much is good? Moderation in sports, for example, in physical exercise. Also, we can do too much. We can do too little. All of that is the wisdom of knowing the right dose. So that's the basis for Mahamudra. This is a preliminary for Mahamudra, because it helps the body so much, the organism so much, to be in a balanced state, that the subtle energies can flow more harmoniously. It's difficult to practice with an open mind when one has eaten too much, when one has drunk too much, when one has not have enough sleep, gone to bed too late, and so on. It's like all these things where we go into excesses, it's just a lack of wisdom. And if we are wise, then we take care and we find it easy to meditate. So this is a preliminary, the wisdom of knowing the right dose in our daily activities. And I think there's one more point. Practicing into the night and early in the morning, sleeping less. Yes, only 4 hours traditionally. I tell you, that's very hard. When they try to bring that to the West, going to bed at 11, getting up at 3, very difficult. But we found a good way of dealing with that. Gene Rinpoche was really nice about how he explained that to us. The moment to get up is when you have the first conscious thought. Okay? You've had your sleep. We're talking about the normal sleep, not about the sleepless person. Okay? Normal sleep, that is the waking up process, and then thinking starts. And that's the time to get up. Exactly then. Not to turn around, not to pull the blanket over. That's the moment to get up. And in the evening, we meditate, if possible, until we feel the sleep is really coming. We feel that sleepiness, which demands to lie down. And then it's the moment to sleep. So don't compare yourself with others. Each one of us has a different constitution. So according to your constitution, take care that you have enough sleep. But there's a good advice, which is try out not to stimulate yourself so much in the evening. What we usually do is that after dinner, then the computer, then we watch some programs, we do this and that, or we go into long discussions, chats with friends and so on. And this keeps us awake artificially. The problem is that in our world we have so many light bulbs, we can make night into day. We have the internet and all the other media, which can make a substitute for communication all through the night. And without noticing it, we reverse our natural patterns of sleep and wakening, and we actually go to bed, most of us go to bed too late, because we stimulate ourselves too much in the time at night, after 8 o'clock or something. We should stop there. This is time when usually, we don't engage into strong intellectual activity. We shouldn't stimulate the mind, but let the mind relax. The sleep will be much better, and we need less sleep. Sleeping a little bit earlier, and we can wake up much earlier. Genro Rinpoche insisted, when he observed us, how we were doing, he insisted that we should have more sleep before midnight. He said the sleep before midnight is more relaxing, it's in a way more precious than the sleep after midnight. And I find this to be true. If I sleep, and this is my normal rhythm, around 10 o'clock, then until the middle of the night, which is usually around 1 o'clock in the morning, I've already slept 3 hours, and then 3 more hours, 4 more hours, and then it's time to wake up. The true midnight is not the midnight on the watch, but it's the middle between darkness and light. When the darkness comes, the dusk and dawn. You have to take the middle between the two. That's midnight. So take care to have an equal amount of hours before the middle of the night and after the middle of the night. Don't count the hours. Just take care that you balance yourself like this, and not to stimulate continuously every night, every evening, until you're over your limits already. It's part of why our culture has so many syndromes of exhaustion, that sleep is disturbed and evenings are too long, night is made into day. So take care of that, and then you can sleep less and you will really enjoy that. Because it's the most joyful thing is to have a clear mind as you wake up. So we can do something for that. We can eat a little bit less also before going to sleep and so on. These were Dakpo Tashi Namga's advice of what we should take care of first, preparing the ground. And tomorrow we will see how to maintain the meditation sessions. Let's conclude with a moment of silence, of silent presence. And then let's dedicate in the spirit of bodhicitta and this spirit of we, of togetherness, all over the planet, all over the universe. May all beings be happy. May they all be free of suffering. May they live in true joy. And the deep equanimity of wisdom, of knowing the nature of all phenomena. And may our little practice of study, contemplation, meditation add to that. Sunam diye tam jazim panin tam nene pedranam pamjena Gangana balam jumpayi Sipet solen jawai shuin champe pawan jita kampada Kundu zampo dayan deshinta Denda kunjin jesun da lonjing Gawan den dam jedam dungo Sangye kosong ne benjen lamdang Jenim enjundam benjen lamdang Gandam enjendun benjen lamji Jendang o waman lamdum pa